One Nation MP Barnaby Joyce joins us live now, a former Deputy Prime Minister. Barnaby Joyce, let me start with I want to start with your reaction to the comments by Grace Tame, where she says, globalise the intifada in that chant. She was leading the crowd in that last night. What do you make of that, the behaviour of the protesters more broadly?
OK, well, let's go in seriatim. First of all, Grace Tame, former Australian of the Year. I know she had a tumultuous childhood. We don't deny that. But that is not a licence, therefore, to go out and be adjunct provocateur and to stir up the Australian people, which she was made Australian of the Year about. And when we look at the actual narrative, she's talking about the removal of the Jewish people. Now, that's just completely unacceptable. This person is outside the pale. And although I'm sorry about the life she lived, she's no different to any else of us. And if that is her shtick that she now wants to continue on with, then she'll be treated with contempt. And there's no greater contempt than the contempt for the person that in the past you believed was sort of something of a beacon and something to reflect on as having virtue. Now we're seeing something that is a curse. And it is a curse because if people are to follow her screeching from the steps, then they are going to go out and hurt people. And with the demonstration as a second issue, you have to follow court orders. We have a process of law in this nation. You have to follow police instructions. And then you have one policeman matching up to 3 demonstrators. And we wonder why all of a sudden they are obviously going full throttle. Yes, there will be discussions about the use of the force, but before there would have been no use of force if people had obeyed the law. And Australia has got to a point now where we do have to come down hard on this. We cannot just go along accepting this sort of incitement to violence, incitement to an attack with this sort of wink, wink, nod, nod by Mr. Lee's, we also don't like what happened in Bondi as well. No, none of us do. But if it wasn't for your part in inciting this and giving licence to this, we probably wouldn't have had this. And so, yeah, we would go. Now people are going to come down like a ton of bricks on this. And I commend Premier Minns, even though from the Labor Party, because it's going to need tough people making tough decisions and showing strength from the top to stop this. And Mr. Albanese has to become part of that. He has to lead from the front. And he has to stand behind the enforcement of law. He has to stand behind the enforcement of court orders. He has to stand against anti-Semitism because this is an inspiration to anti-Semitism. It inspires one of the most disgusting aspects of human history, and it's got to be stopped.
So before we get into some of those issues in detail, I want to just clarify, with Grace Tame, an Australian of the Year, the highest honour really an Australian can have, given that language and it's the anti-Semitic nature of it, globalise the intifada 6 weeks after the atrocity in Bondi, is that the sort of thing that should see her stripped of that honour?
Yes, 100%. The answer to that is yes. You have a responsibility when given an honour by the Australian people to basically conduct yourself in a way that inspires the harmonious nature of Australia. We love the egalitarian. We are not, we're not softies, but we have an egalitarian, we have a robustness, we have a cheek about us, but we do not inspire this sort of division, this hate, and the form of her words, if it's followed through, brings about the death of people. People will on the premise of their religion, of their race, they will be murdered. And is that what you want, Grace Tame? Is that the gift you give back to Australia after one of the greatest honours Australia could bestow on you?
This image, I spoke to Andrew Clennell about, of that protester and the police trying to handcuff him. He's had correspondence from officers saying they believe, not those on the ground, others with correspondence to Sky and Andrew saying they think that protester was trying to bite the police. But what do you make of the claim by Josh Lees and others he used the word and description police brutality?
I would say to Mr. Lees, well, Mr. Lees, you're responsible for it in that you did not abide by the laws, you did not abide by the court orders. You went out, Mr. Lees, to look for a fight. Let's be factual. You went out to look for a fight. You went out to look for a fight against the police. You wanted to yak eye on and get yourself on national television, and you did that. And now you're standing back saying, oh, the consequences of my actions in inspiring this riot, I'm disgusted with. Well, Mr. Lees, you were the one who threw the match into the house, and now you're complaining that the fire engine turned up and put water on the furniture. Well, you know, sorry, Mr. Lees, why do we... This guy is beyond the pale. He's still doing it, still inspiring this anti-Semitic form of behaviour with this wink, wink, nod, nod, thinking the fourth estate are all fools. The Australian people can't see through him. We know exactly what he's up to, and we're going to call him on it. And as far as what happened in that incident, I do not know all the details. The police will get to us, but you have to see it a little bit through the eyes of the police. Okay, they're outnumbered. They have to. They tried politely to say, please, no, don't do this. And people said, well, to hell with you. We're going to fight you instead. Well, what do you think happens in a fight?
Yeah, well, they'd already, as you rightly point out, breached the legal direction, and despite their complaints about having their protests restricted, it became quite obvious why that was the case. As Premier Minns put it, Barnaby Joyce, there were 7,000 mourners not that far away that New South Wales Police had to keep this group away from. Mourners who have lost, many of them, loved ones, trying to grieve with the president, the visiting head of state of Israel.
And Kieran, we don't need much imagination as to work out what would have happened if those two groups had mixed. I don't think Mr. Lees would have become, Mother Teresa of Calcutta and stood between them and said, "Oh no, that's enough. Let's all go home now." He wanted a fight, and he got a fight. And this is what happens in the heat of the conflict. People then stand back and say, "Oh, what about that issue? What about that issue?" And you say, "No, you created the conflict. That's why there was a conflict. You created it. And if you had obeyed the law, and if you had dispersed as asked, and if you had complied with the orders that you were given, I mean, we can't have a nation where people just wander off and forget about the rule of law, because that's exactly what was happening." And what I might say too, there's one thing I didn't see there, Kieran, and I had a good look. Maybe I missed it. Not one Australian flag. There were flags of other nations, but, because Australia in the subtext, Australia's a bit of an inconvenience as well, It's not quite right. It's the colony, and it's got to be brought down, and none of us actually belong here. I don't know where we go. I suppose, Kieran, I don't know where you're supposed to head off back to and where Andrew Cornell's supposed to head off back to, but no, we're Australians. We belong here. We're very proud of this nation, and we're sick of being pushed around. We're sick of this, and we're going to make a stand, and we'll stand behind those people who want to enforce the law.
I want to turn our attention to the politics, and it's not all sort of unrelated. We know that there was a spike in the One Nation vote, and in the wake of the atrocity in Bondi. Is this in terms of the numbers, the politics, the One Nation support? Do you believe that is sustainable, that level, at 1 in 4 Australians backing your party?
Well, look, it's indicative, and it's an incredible honour that's basically being bestowed on us in the form of polling. It's not one poll, it's multiple polls. So I think the sample size concurs with one another, therefore you would say it is a fact. We have to prove ourselves in an election. We understand that. Hubris comes before nemesis, so we're not going to get full of ourselves as to exactly how this plays out. But a mighty task in front of us. It's a reflection on the circumstances that Australia and other parts of the world see themselves in. A reflection on people who want clarity, unity and strength, and they see One Nation as offering that. And if you want, unfortunately, sadly, if you want to see if you want to see the antithesis of that, of clarity, unity and strength, well, it's happening in the Joint Party room right now.
Do you, when you look at that, the Joint Party room, the fact that you left, did you sniff the breeze? Could you tell this is where it was going? It was going pear-shaped, or were you part of the catalyst for making them become what has looked like a dysfunctional rabble?
I think we were all very much aware that my relationship with Mr. Littleproud had broken down. I don't think he has been conducive to a harmonious relationship within the coalition. I'm very aware of, unfortunately, how Mr. Littleproud works. And just in a picture, was it yesterday or the day before when the coalition got back together again, I saw the person who was apparently half the show standing there with a smirk on his face, without a tie, without a coat, basically carpeting the leader of the Liberal Party right in front of her face. And that's, you know, call it for what it is. Look under the bonnet of this.
So, yeah, just finally, do you think that he continues to undermine the Nationals leader, is undermining the Liberal leader? Is that I mean, you were in that party for long enough. You can make your
100%,
judgment.
100%. 100%. And I, you know, this is a remarkable individual that seems to be able to get Patricia Corvallis and Jeff Chambers off at the same side, Greg Brown and James Massola, goes in and carpets you in front of your face. You know, I think, you know, when things don't work out, we see the nasty side of this individual, and we see that fit of pique that comes out. And yes, I do think that the statement that just in front of your face, he said, "Oh, there was 3 caveats on not being able to work with Susan Lee again," and James Massola rightly pointed out, no, that is not the truth. You are not telling the truth. And so I would suggest that behind the scenes, we are seeing a manifestation of what you saw in sort of the metaphorical approach of no tie, no coat, smoke on your face, dismissiveness. If you're going to do that in front of when you're supposed to do your very best of pretending that you've got it all together, that you know the job before you. You do have a job on behalf of the Australian people to be a cogent and ardent and forensic opposition, to hold the government to account so the Australian people can see the issues fleshed out. That is not happening, and it is a farce. And yes, and One Nation people are baking in as One Nation voters, as they should.
Barnaby Joyce, thanks. We'll talk to you soon.
My pleasure.